Good afternoon, friends, and a very warm welcome back after a very nice lunch. I hope to keep you, quite enlightened about this subject which has been given to me, which is fundamentally focusing on the business aspect, which on the topic which I have chosen is a mobile broadband strategy. We have seen a lot of deliberations this morning coming from those expert speakers from Airtel, from Ericsson, and Mr. Khurana himself, Aircel, etc. So basically, mobile broadband, as you see, has to take off one day in India. We are facing a delay in terms of the auctions of the 3G spectrum. It's a wait, but on the flip side, it's a wait which could be also a positive trend. Let's look at it from this direction, that this wait could also lead to some kind of price reduction in terms of the terminals, number one, which is a major, still a blocking point in terms of the 3G penetration in the global markets. That's one aspect, and also I would like to highlight during my presentation some critical business innovations that has been brought in by some leading 3G service providers globally, what they have done, what we can do that has relevance in India, and what we should not do as well. It's a kind of a learning from other markets. This is also a benefit of the time that we are getting, that we are able to learn from the bad experience of the other operators as well. I will also touch upon on those points as well. So let me first start up with the mobile broadband market. As you can see in this slide, that we can see that hockey stick curve taking off in terms of the mobile broadband projections over the next 3 years. We can see here that HSPA, or high-speed packet access, is the technology which is expected to have a dominant share of the mobile broadband in the global market, with about 70%, and e-video is expected to contribute a good over 22%, and also we have mobile WiMAX and other things just taking off in other global markets. The most important thing is that the Asia Pacific is contributing to about 30% of the total mobile broadband global market share. This also shows the great potential that the emerging economies have on this particular market. The only scarcity, the only blocking point is the spectrum. So obviously with just the 2G networks today in place, operators are waiting for 3G spectrum, and it's also interesting for you to take note that 5 megahertz per operator for 3G is the first time in the world that a single operator is given only 5 megahertz for the 3G service. This is happening for the first time. So a lot is going to depend on what the operators are going to do with this chunk. It's going to depend on the operator's strategy, whether they will deliver voice, voice come data, or even a case like eMobile Japan, where they launched data services only using 3G. It could also be another model which the operators could look at. And then once the 3G services, the data services came to a good point of recovery of quick, faster recovery of revenues, then they launched voice at a very low cost. So this could also be another strategy which the operators could take. So overall, we see that there is still a solid potential on the mobile broadband. The only thing is the spectrum, which we hopefully await till at least the third quarter, if I remember, if I'm right, of this year for the auctions to take place. Let me now come immediately into the innovation, the business innovation aspect, which is a topic given in this session. If you see in terms of how 3G should succeed or will succeed in Indian market, we have to consider a very careful pricing methodology for the services, and these would be based on a step-by-step or on a point-by-point agenda which operators need to look at. The first point, as you can see here, is to determine the target segment willingness to pay. That's the first important point of starting any new service. So it sets the kind of lower limit and also a kind of an upper limit in terms of identifying the monetary value that the end consumers actually perceive for a particular service. As it was pointed out in the morning, that technology, there is enough choice of technologies today. Unless we start with the end customer, what is the real requirement of or the behavioral pattern of the end customer, we are not able to launch any service successfully. So first let us determine the target segment's willingness to pay. which will yield the kind of lowest possible pricing that should be combined with the other inputs to determine an optimal price level. Once we know the target customer's willingness to pay, the second point will be to do a correct benchmarking. When I say benchmarking, of course, every market has its own behavior of using a particular service, but India can be compared to other emerging markets like, say, South Africa or even Philippines, even Singapore to some extent, and other similar markets, how the 3G behavioral patterns have been, and how to establish a correct benchmarking of a particular service in that particular market, and that will give a good idea in terms of what is a reasonable pricing that can be done for a particular service in the mobile broadband space. The third step will be to identify the critical value drivers. What is the rationale, or what is the premium that the end users are willing to pay for a service which is going to give them an additional value? How do you measure that value? So first you have to identify the drivers for a particular value and kind of monetize it or kind of measure it, and see how you can position your pricing based on the value drivers perceived for that particular market. And the fourth step will be to set the right pricing levels and the guidelines. So this is just a Huawei perspective in terms of how to go to the market for a successful launch of a 3G business. And it can vary from operator to operator. It's a very general methodology. But the point here is that the greenfield 3G operators also have a great opportunity that they can launch 3G directly with setting up of packet transport mobile backhaul networks, which are already existing today, which have been launched commercially. So there is enough room for both the greenfield as well as the new operators as far as the Indian market is concerned. Let's now again take some learning from what are the mainstream services that the industry has witnessed in terms of the mobile broadband. Here I have shown about 9 services which have been launched by the top 6 operators in this industry. The 3G data card, which comes number 1, as you can see, has been one of the so-called killer service of the mobile broadband so far. The data card itself contributes to about more than 60% of the total mobile broadband revenues in the global markets. So that's something which has gained enough traction, and it has been a big success story globally. Internet surfing, music downloads. I'll come to mobile TV and video call a bit later. Mobile newspaper has been a big success in China. Instant messaging, email, search, and these kind of services were the initial services that have seen a good level of traction in the global markets. Mobile TV and video call are 2 services which are yet to see a mass success, fundamentally because of the behavioral, the usage pattern, which could see a change in the Indian context, provided the pricing or the tariff is done correctly. Again, it will be a big balance in terms of how to use a small 5 megahertz chunk and how to give the experience, the experience that the data services or high-speed video services which the customers are expecting. This is also a key challenge. So at the end, I will also highlight what is required to counter this challenge in terms of a national broadband plan, which the government and the stakeholders should work on. It's another example or one of the innovations that has been done by Vodafone UK, which is one of the good examples of 3G services, that they keep voice and SMS as compulsory in 3G. When you're launching a 3G service, you have to keep voice and SMS compulsory in this particular tariff, and other services will be an optional add-ons. You can take it or not take it. So whether you use voice and SMS or not, you will be paying for that particular service. So that's really paid off quite well, that they have a scheme here, as you can see here. They have a one-off cost for the handset and a monthly cost of only £15 for binding a particular customer for 24 months contract, and where you get 500 texts and 100 minutes of talk time free. And then you have the optional add-ons. You can have a family and friends special tariff. You can have a mobile TV based on the Sky mobile TV or whatever, the sports pack, the TV news pack, the games pack. This will come as an optional add-ons. So the key message here is to consider the voice and SMS as a mandatory service where a fixed revenue is assured. Next point is very interesting in terms of the unlimited volume package. In terms of the unlimited volume package, we see that this is something which the operators should not do, because it has not seen it has witnessed a huge pressure on the network, and which the network cannot handle. As you know, the networks are also optimized in terms of coverage and capacity. You balance the two. So if you bring in really a high volume on a particular network, then the cell site is going to shrink, and most of the customers will not be able to have the coverage. So this has seen some bad experience with a lot of operators, including AT&T. You must have heard about the December experience of AT&T US when they launched the iPhone, the unlimited download from the iPhone. Suddenly there was, there was a free download from the iPhone. The iPhone traffic just surged and the network totally collapsed. So that has been some kind of a learning, that an unlimited volume package should be capped in terms of the maximum downloads. Another point which we need to consider is the data card subsidy, where you are locking a customer. Again, it's like binding the customer for a particular contract period and ensuring for the first 3 months or the first 6 months or the first 24 months, you just have this customer by paying a fixed, so that means that the operator is getting a fixed amount every month. And then, this is a kind of a data card subsidy which is able to assure the operators of a fixed revenue, and then lower the one-time entry barrier, which is for the end users. Next key innovation is the customized netbook. We see a huge acceleration in terms of the netbook sales. In 2008, if you see that the global mobile broadband laptop sales crossed 13 million units, out of which 10 million was sold only in the second half. We are still awaiting the results for 2009. So you can see that there is a huge growth of the netbooks in the market. So how you can subsidize your voice and broadband and subsidize your netbook or the end terminal will be a key aspect also for the success of mobile broadband. This is a very interesting example of Vodacom, which is again a very successful 3G operator in South Africa. I deliberately put it because it's very relevant for the Indian context. Is that today mobile broadband has become the real option or the real choice for the broadband service by the end user. This is because of a tariff that has been put for the mobile broadband, as you can see in this graph, that up to 2 MB downloads, you see that the mobile broadband tariff is lower than the fixed broadband tariff. And beyond 2 GB download, you have the mobile broadband more expensive than the fixed broadband. So by this kind of innovative tariffing, today Vodacom has achieved a good level of penetration for mobile broadband. About half of the whole broadband market in South Africa, the broadband users are on mobile broadband. So just another example of Maxis giving a discount to the government staff. So in terms of the success stories, we have learned that we have just put the case of 4 operators. First is Vodafone, where data card has been a key service which has contributed to 62% of the revenues out of all the non-SMS services in UK. And Hutchison 3, as you may know, is 3 weeks after commercial launch, 300,000 data cards has been sold out. Mobily, if in Saudi Arabia, 26 times the data traffic within 3 months of launch of 3G. And South Africa, of course, I gave you the example of mobile broadband overtaking the fixed broadband in as early as 2 years from the mobile broadband introduction, and became the obvious choice of broadband for the common user. So with these few messages, and with one key point to the Indian industry stakeholders, that in order to make a success of 3G and mobile broadband in India, we need the so-called the broadband plan. That means that whatever spectrum, we are talking of 3G in the 2.1 gigahertz band, so how it will evolve over a period of time, over in terms of the LTE technology. You may have heard about the long-term evolution. What will be the spectrum for LTE? If 700 megahertz is going to be optimized, how it will be if 3G 5 megahertz is given today or in another 6 months, then how additional spectrum, what is the plan for additional spectrum, and in which band it will be given or not? The operators need to know today. So unless